friends, welcome back to Making Waves. Well, today I have another terrible story for you. This is the story of murder on the high seas. And the last one I did was on Karen Waltz Roston, and I'll link that up here. Today's story is about Micki Kanesaki. So stay tuned. Let's talk about it. So I shared in the previous Fatal Tides video that I did that I kind of am a true crime follower. I hate the crime, but find the search for the killer and the psychology that goes into all of that very interesting. And so I thought I would maybe combine my love of cruising with my love for true crime. And so I'm bringing you these tales of murder on the high seas. So we're going to talk about Micki Kanesaki today. Micki Kanesaki was the daughter of a Japanese coal miner who immigrated to the United States. Her father moved here to work on a farm, and then he brought the rest of the family over in 1960. Lonnie Kokantis graduated with honors from law school in 1992, and he joined a law firm in Los Angeles. And that's where Lonnie Kokantis met Micki Kanesaki in 1993 because she worked there as well as a paralegal. Now, Lonnie developed an interest right away in Micki and pursued her romantically. They dated for a couple of years, and in 1995, they married. Seemingly all was going well in the marriage for the first few years. In 1999, Lonnie was accused of having sex with a client's daughter. As you can imagine, the client was very upset, reported this to the partners with the law firm, and to top it off, the daughter was a minor.
What?
Yeah. Lonnie denied the accusation, and by all accounts, Micki stood by his side. However, Lonnie was ultimately fired from the law firm, and he was arrested. Lonnie came up with this plan or this idea to divorce Micki so that he could shift all of his assets, including the home that they bought together in Los Angeles, and shift all those assets to Micki's name so that if this lawsuit, proceeded and there was ultimately some sort of financial judgment, that he wouldn't have the assets in his name. Ultimately, the lawsuit was dropped, but Micki and Lonnie continued to live as man and wife, even though they were legally divorced. So they were still living together in the house that they shared. And at some point, Lonnie began a romantic relationship with another woman by the name of Amy Nguyen. Now, Micki didn't know about this. Apparently, no one knew about Amy, including Lonnie's close friends and family. At some point, though, Lonnie must have had the conversation with Micki because in 2005, Lonnie married Amy Nguyen and moved in with Amy. However, after only a few months, Lonnie and Amy's marriage broke down and Lonnie moved back in with Micki. Sometime after this, Lonnie had new wills drawn up for both himself and Micki, where in Micki's will, Lonnie was named as the sole heir of all of her assets in the event of her death, and Micki was named as the sole heir for Lonnie in the case of his death. There's reports that Lonnie and Micki still weren't really getting along all that well, but they did continue to live together. It's at this point that Lonnie decided to plan a cruise for he and Micki to kind of rekindle the spark, the relationship. And so he booked a cruise on the island Escape that would be departing from Spain on a Mediterranean cruise. So coincidentally, the island Escape was formerly named the Star Dancer. And if you watched my video on Karen Waltz Roston, that is the ship that she and her husband were on when she was murdered. So Lonnie and Micki depart on this beautiful Mediterranean cruise in May of 2006. On the night of May 25th, 2006, Lonnie reported that he and Micki had dinner together. They shared a bottle of wine and returned to the cabin. He claims that he then took a sleeping pill and went immediately to sleep. He says that when he woke up around 4:30 a.m., Micki was nowhere to be found. Lonnie reported Micki missing to the ship's crew and a search ensued. According to the crew, they said that Lonnie mentioned that she may have fallen overboard. Why would you ultimately jump to that conclusion if you had nothing to do with it? The crew reported that the seas were very calm that night, so they felt it was pretty unlikely that Micki would have accidentally fallen overboard. The ship arrives in Naples, Italy, and after 12 hours of searching the ship, there is certainly no sign of Micki. There also didn't seem to be any indications of foul play in the cabin that Micki and Lonnie shared. So at that point, the Italian Coast Guard got involved and began searching the waters for Micki. The authorities put Lonnie up in a hotel there in Naples while they were searching for Micki. Lonnie made a phone call to a friend saying that nobody spoke English and the people there were mean. I found that interesting. I have had the very good fortune to travel to Italy for work in a past life on a couple of occasions, and I certainly found lots of people spoke English. I did my best to speak very little broken Italian, but I certainly didn't find them mean or didn't have difficulty communicating. That's just one person's experience. I don't know what Lonnie actually experienced. So while the search for Micki is ongoing, Lonnie decides to leave Italy. It's, I think, 24 hours or less into the search for Micki, and he decides to leave and fly back to the States. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm on a cruise and my spouse goes missing and I don't have anything to do with it, I'm not leaving, right? So I found that pretty suspicious, as did the authorities. As soon as Lonnie got back to the States, he went to Amy Nguyen's house, his former wife, and attempted to kind of strike up a relationship there, so adding further suspicion in this case. Micki's body was found a day after Lonnie left. So within 24 hours after his departure, Lonnie's body was found floating in the sea, not actually found by the Italian Coast Guard, but by a research vessel who then ultimately notified the Coast Guard. So whenever an American dies in a suspicious manner overseas, the FBI gets involved. An autopsy was completed in Italy, and the autopsy found a few things. One, Micki was found floating. So has some kind of parallels to the Karen Wells Roston story. And what that indicated was that she was likely dead when she entered the water. They found evidence of manual strangulation. She had bruising around her neck. She also had bruising on other parts of her body, as well as a blunt force trauma injury to her skull. The ultimate cause of death was ruled to be strangulation. However, because there was no physical evidence that they could really find to point to Lonnie, or anyone else for that matter, there was no arrest in the case at that time. During the FBI's initial investigation, they actually spoke with Lonnie's ex-wife, Amy Nguyen, and Amy claimed that Lonnie had never spoken badly about Micki and certainly had never talked about wanting her dead. And the case kind of stalled from there. So remember that prior to Lonnie and Micki going on the cruise, Lonnie had new wills drawn up. So he was the sole inheritor to all of Micki's assets, which he looks like he kind of promptly liquidated into cash. And he moved much of it to foreign bank accounts in an effort to protect it. Then, 2 years after Micki's death, Lonnie tried to move about $1 million in funds back to a U.S. account, and this tipped off authorities somehow that this was happening, and there was renewed interest in investigating Lonnie for Micki's death. The Orange County, California DA's office picked up the case again and started investigating. There was another discussion with Amy Nguyen, who recounted her earlier story. She now stated that Lonnie told her that he and Micki were going on a cruise and that Micki would not be returning from that cruise. So now it's 2013 and the DA finally feels like they have enough proof, and Lonnie is arrested for Micki's murder. According to investigators, Lonnie had very carefully planned that cruise, including researching what cruise ship he wanted to go on. And it said that he picked the Island Escape, and he did book a balcony room, by the way. So it said he picked that particular ship and chose a balcony cabin because unlike a lot of modern cruise ships, there was a straight drop from the balcony to the sea below. They're not tiered like so many of our current cruise ships are. While in prison, our friend Lonnie, who was purported to be this incredibly brilliant, attorney, solicited two fellow inmates to murder ex-wife Amy Nguyen.
You are made of stupid.
So he added murder for solicitation to the charges he was facing. Lonnie filed motion after motion after motion, which caused quite a long delay, but finally in February of 2020, his trial began. So we all know what happened in the early spring of 2020, right? The pandemic hits. So this adds further delays to the trial. So once the trial resumed, Lonnie testified that he and Micki were in the process of reconciling. So why on earth would he want her dead? Prosecutors maintained that Lonnie had planned Micki's murder ultimately for financial gain. Since he was listed as the beneficiary in her will, he stood to gain roughly $2 million in assets, which included the house that they shared together. Ultimately, Lonnie was found guilty of murder for financial gain and was sentenced to life in prison. And that, my friends, is the very sad story of Amy Nguyen. Nope, that's wrong. It's the sad story of Micki Kanesaki. As always, thank you so much for taking time to watch. And if you love cruising like we do and you're interested in more cruise tips, tricks, packing, cruise planning, and maybe even some more Fatal Tides episodes, I invite you to subscribe and join the Making Way family. Until next time, happy cruising.